So I bought a new camera, contradictory to the video I put out a few weeks ago about the best camera in 2023 is the one you own right now. For me, that's my Sony A9000. However, I stand by that video, and this new camera doesn't contradict myself in any way, and there's a few reasons why. Primarily, its intended use. So, what camera did I buy? There was a few good guesses on Instagram, etc., but nobody got it correct. And if they had, I'd have been impressed. Before I show you the new purchase, I'll give you some clues and 10 seconds to guess. It's 9 years old, almost 10, Sony APS-C sensor, smaller than my iPhone 13 mini. Have you got it? You should. It was in the video title. Yes, it's the Sony A6000. Let's just bring this in. So as you can see, we've got the A6000 box here. I've already gone and unpacked it. Ta-da! So dainty. So yep, I bought a 10-year-old camera. Well, 9 years old, but 10 sounds nicer, and I'm rounding up. So why did I buy a 10-year-old relic? A camera many people, especially professionals, would laugh at you for using for a wedding. Well, let's start by saying it's not going to be used for weddings, that's for sure. Not as a main camera, but it would certainly serve as a last-ditch backup if the unthinkable happened. So let's give a quick lowdown on specs. 24.3 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor, Bion's X image processor. It has a hybrid EF system with 25 contrast detect and 179 phase detect points, so not bad. Built-in flash and multi-interface shoe. It does 11 frames per second continuous shooting, which is great. It also does subject tracking. Has a 3-inch tilting LCD with nearly 1 million dots, so it's not great. OLED electronic viewfinder with 1.44 million dots, pretty much the same as a lot of the Sony cameras. Full HD video recording at 1080 60p and 24p, so it doesn't do 4K. It also has Wi-Fi. So specs out the way, I've spent ages, I'm talking probably 12 months, looking at researching small pocketable cameras for family and everyday life photography. I've done a couple of family trips now, and taking your Sony A9 and a 35 1.4G Master is a bit of a chore, and I've often left it in the car, especially if we're walking the fells in the Lake District, for example. Now for weddings, it's a beast, but for personal life, it's too big, even though it's still smaller than most older DSLR type bodies. I wanted something small and easy, something I could bring some joy and fun back into my photography, as I don't touch my cameras usually unless it's for work. The Fuji system really appealed to me due to the built-in film recipes, and the no editing workflow sounded perfect. But trying to get a hold of an X100V or similar is like finding water on the moon. Very difficult. They're sold out everywhere, and due to the supply and demand issues, if you can find one, the price is usually double what the RRP is in many cases. So I turned my attentions back to good old Sony, and there was a few parameters the camera had to meet. Small and pocketable, the primary reason, whilst having decent autofocus. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a good few limitations to the Sony A6000, but for what I want, it works really well. It has lock-on autofocus, so focus and recompose isn't too difficult. It has the same megapixel count as my A9s with a 6000 by 4000 pixel final image, and can burst shoot up to 11 frames per second. So it'll certainly do the job I needed to for family life and personal projects. And best of, it was like 500 quid. And pair that with a lens, which I'll get to in a bit. I also wanted it to be cheap, so going for an older camera is the most logical choice. So the fine balance of old and cheap, but with the features I wanted, was tough to find. But the Sony A6000 is the perfect camera, and I think I've definitely found what I was looking for. I also really want to showcase that gear doesn't make the photographer. I've said this before. So I'll be using this little bad boy at a wedding, second shooter of course, to showcase it's the skill, experience, knowledge that makes the photographer, and you can still achieve good results. If you search anything photography related on YouTube, all the videos with the views and likes are all gear videos. I'm not even exaggerating, go and check. Yet videos that try to educate, help, advise are much less ingested by viewers. It should be the other way around. A camera is a tool. Yes, some can do things better than others, but if you're great at what you do, you can use any tool. As an example, Dr. Jones buying a £6,000 Sony A1 for the weekends with family is exactly the problem with the industry. All the big boys advocating the latest and greatest. All the gear, no idea. You don't need the latest and greatest, you need to actually know what you're doing. If I switch cameras for paintbrushes for a moment, stay with me, it's a tool. Does a farmer using Leonardo da Vinci's brushes paint masterpieces like Da Vinci? God no. Just because the tools is there, it's the power of the hands that wield it which determine the output. So just buying a £6,000 camera won't instantly make you a better photographer. It's the education and skill and knowledge and experience. Anyway, all being said, a 10-year-old Sony A6000 is more than adequate for me, and I will have some videos coming up in the timeline comparing my A9 to the A6000 next week with some blind tests. Let's see if you can tell a difference, and if you can, is it so noticeable to disregard the A6000 completely? I'll also have a video in the timeline for second shooting a wedding, even just for an hour or two, and demonstrating all the points I've just mentioned about getting great images with any tool. My good friend Stephen Beecroft will be watching this, no doubt. Hi Stephen. Stephen, if you have any weddings coming up where I could tag along for half a day or a full day or even just an hour to get some photos, that would be great, pal, just using this. I'll of course hand over the raw images as if I was actually second shooting if you want to use them. Let me know if you have any that would suit me popping along, and win-win for the couple too with a boatload of extra images. I'll even cull the images before delivering you the final raws if you want. So let's talk about the lens. The lens I wanted needed to keep the small footprint of the camera, so I knew instantly I wanted a pancake lens. I've shot for years on 35mm, so something close to that is what I wanted. I opted for this Sony E-mount 20mm f2.8, which is around a 30mm equivalent in full frame. And as you can see, as a complete package, it's ridiculously tiny. It's perfect for sticking in my pocket when out and about. Well, I've waffled on enough about this great little camera, and I'll have a few more videos coming out soon involving it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and come back to the channel in a week's time, and I bet this video has more views than any other on my channel because it's about gear, guaranteed. Okay, I'll see you in the next week's video for the blind test between the £6,000 A9 setup and this £500 A6000 setup. See you in the next video.